There comes a moment in life when everything feels uncertain, as if the ground beneath you is no longer stable. You cannot return to who you once were, yet you are not fully who you are becoming. This is not confusion. It is initiation. You stand at the edge of something life-changing. Most people retreat at this point. They mistake discomfort for failure, anxiety for danger, and the unknown for something to avoid. But what you are feeling is not a sign to turn back. It is a sign that something deep within you is awakening. The psyche does not disturb you without reason. When your inner world becomes restless, it is because an old version of you is no longer sufficient. The life you once lived can no longer contain the person you are becoming. And so tension arises. This tension is not your enemy. It is the fire that reshapes you. You may feel pulled in two directions, one towards safety, familiarity, and the known, and the other towards something vast, uncertain, and calling you forward. That pull is not random. It is the silent voice of your deeper self, urging you to step beyond the limits you have unconsciously accepted. But growth demands a price. You cannot carry your old fears, identities, and illusions into this next phase. They must be confronted. They must be seen. And ultimately, they must be released. This is why fear appears so strongly at the threshold of change. It is not there to stop you. It is there to test whether you are ready to stand at the edge and not run, to feel uncertainty and not collapse, to hear the call of something greater and not silence it. There is a quiet truth within you that already knows your life is trying to expand. The question is not whether change is coming. It is whether you will consciously step into it or be dragged by it unconsciously. Transformation does not happen in comfort. It happens in moments like this, when everything feels unclear, when you are forced to confront yourself, when you can no longer pretend to be who you used to be. This is the edge, and the edge is sacred, because just beyond it lies a version of you that you have not yet met, but have always been meant to become. So do not retreat. Do not numb yourself. Do not shrink back into what is familiar just because it feels safe. Stand firm in the uncertainty. Listen closely to what is emerging within you. Trust that this discomfort is not meaningless. It is purposeful. You are not breaking. You are becoming. The feeling of inner tension is often misunderstood as something negative, something to escape or suppress, yet it carries a far deeper meaning that many fail to recognize. When you begin to feel restless, conflicted, or emotionally stirred without clear reason, it is not necessarily a sign that something is wrong with you. Rather, it may indicate that something within you is shifting, evolving, and trying to emerge into awareness. This tension arises when your current way of being can no longer fully contain your potential, when the life you are living no longer aligns with the deeper truth growing inside you. It creates a friction between who you have been and who you are becoming. Most people interpret this discomfort as danger and immediately seek relief through distraction, avoidance, or retreat into familiar patterns. However, this reaction only delays growth and keeps them trapped in outdated versions of themselves. Inner tension is not meant to harm you, it is meant to awaken you. It is the psyche's way of signaling that change is necessary, that something new is trying to take shape beyond the limits of your current identity. Just as pressure is required to transform coal into diamond, this psychological pressure is essential for inner transformation. Without it, there would be no movement, no evolution, no reason to question or expand beyond what is known. The discomfort you feel is not the end point, but the beginning of a deeper process, one that asks you to look inward, to confront what you have avoided, and to step into unfamiliar territory. It challenges your illusions of control and forces you to face uncertainty, which is often where true growth resides. If you learn to sit with this tension rather than run from it, you begin to understand its purpose. You start to see that it is guiding you, shaping you, and preparing you for a new phase of life. The key is not to eliminate the tension, but to interpret it correctly, to see it as a signal of transformation rather than a warning of danger. When you shift your perspective in this way, the same feeling that once caused fear begins to inspire curiosity and courage. You realize that you are not falling apart but being restructured from within, and that this inner conflict is not a weakness but a powerful force pushing you toward becoming more whole, more aware, and more aligned with your true self. The unknown is often approached with hesitation, as if it holds danger or loss, yet it carries within it the quiet promise of discovery that cannot be found within the boundaries of the familiar. What is known may offer comfort and a sense of control, but it rarely challenges you to grow beyond the limits you have already accepted. The unknown, on the other hand, disrupts certainty and invites you into a space where your assumptions no longer guide you. It is in this space that self-discovery begins to unfold. When you step into what you cannot fully predict or understand, you are stripped of the identities and roles that once defined you. You can no longer rely on habitual responses or inherited beliefs, and so you are forced to confront who you are beneath those layers. This confrontation is not always easy, as it often reveals both strength and vulnerability, clarity and confusion. Yet it is precisely this duality that deepens your awareness. The unknown does not simply test you, it reveals you. It shows you how you respond when certainty is removed, how you adapt when control is no longer guaranteed, and how you perceive yourself when external validation fades. Many avoid this space because it feels unstable, but in avoiding it, they also avoid the opportunity to encounter their deeper nature. The familiar can become a subtle prison, one that keeps you repeating patterns that feel safe but limit your expansion. The unknown breaks this cycle by introducing unpredictability, which forces you to engage with life more consciously. In doing so, it awakens parts of you that have remained dormant, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. It encourages curiosity over fear, exploration over avoidance, and presence over control. As you begin to navigate uncertainty, you develop a different kind of confidence, one that is not dependent on having all the answers, but on trusting your ability to face whatever arises. This shift transforms the unknown from something threatening into something meaningful. It becomes a path rather than an obstacle, a gateway rather than a barrier. Through it, you come to understand that self-discovery is not a fixed destination, but an ongoing process shaped by your willingness to step beyond what is comfortable. The more you engage with the unknown, the more you realize that it is not separate from you, but intimately connected to your potential. It holds the aspects of yourself that have yet to be realized. And by entering it, you begin to uncover a deeper sense of identity that is not confined by past definitions, but continuously evolving in response to new experiences and inner awareness. Fear has a way of appearing at the exact moment you are about to step beyond the limits of your current self, as if it stands at a doorway you did not know existed until you approached it. It does not arrive randomly, nor does it emerge without purpose. It rises when something within you is ready to expand, when you are nearing a threshold that separates who you have been from who you are capable of becoming. Yet most people misunderstand this presence. They interpret fear as a warning to retreat, a signal that they are heading in the wrong direction. In doing so, they turn away from the very experiences that could transform them. Fear, however, is not always an enemy. It is often a guardian standing at the edge of growth, testing whether you are willing to move forward despite uncertainty. It reveals what matters to you by showing you what you are afraid to lose, and it exposes the boundaries you have unconsciously accepted as permanent. When you encounter fear, you are being invited to look deeper, to question whether the limits you perceive are real or simply constructed by past experiences and conditioning. This moment is crucial because it determines whether you remain confined within what is familiar or step into something greater. Growth does not occur in the absence of fear. It requires you to face it, to understand it, and to move through it with awareness rather than avoidance. The intensity of fear often reflects the significance of what lies beyond it. The more meaningful the transformation, the stronger the resistance you may feel. This is why fear can feel overwhelming, as if it is trying to protect you from something unknown. In a way, it is. It is trying to protect the version of you that has learned to survive within certain limits. But survival is not the same as growth. To grow, you must be willing to challenge what feels safe and question what feels certain. When you begin to see fear in this light, it changes your relationship with it. Instead of allowing it to dictate your actions, you start to engage with it consciously. You listen to what it reveals without letting it control your direction. You recognize that its presence is not a command to stop, but an invitation to become more aware. As you move forward despite fear, you discover that it does not disappear immediately, but it loses its power over you. It becomes a companion rather than a barrier, something that signals you are on the edge of change. In this way, fear does not block your path. It marks the entrance to a deeper version of yourself waiting to be realized. The unconscious speaks in ways that are often subtle, indirect, and easily overlooked, yet its influence shapes far more of your life than you may realize. It does not announce itself with clarity or logic, but instead reveals its presence through feelings, dreams, impulses, and sudden shifts in mood or perception. When you begin to experience a sense of restlessness, a quiet dissatisfaction, or an unexplainable pull towards something different, it is rarely without meaning. These signals are not random disturbances, but expressions of a deeper layer within you that is seeking movement, growth, and transformation. The unconscious does not remain silent when change is needed. It pushes, nudges, and sometimes disrupts the surface of your life to draw attention to what has been ignored or left undeveloped. Many people resist these signals because they do not fit within their plans or expectations. They attempt to maintain control, to preserve stability, and to avoid the discomfort that often accompanies inner change. However, the more these signals are suppressed, the more persistent they become. What begins as a quiet feeling can grow into tension, confusion, or even a sense of being lost. This is not because something is wrong, but because something within you is trying to break through the limitations you have placed upon yourself. The unconscious holds aspects of your identity that have not yet been fully realized, potentials that remain hidden beneath routines and familiar roles. When it urges you toward change, it is not trying to destabilize your life, but to expand it. It is guiding you toward a more complete version of yourself, one that integrates both what is known and what has been left in the shadows. To respond to this call requires attention and honesty. It asks you to listen without immediately dismissing what you feel, to reflect on what may be emerging beneath the surface, and to consider the possibility that your current path no longer aligns with your deeper nature. This process is not always comfortable, as it may challenge your sense of identity and require you to let go of certain attachments. Yet within this discomfort lies the opportunity for genuine transformation. When you begin to engage with the unconscious rather than resist it, you create a dialogue within yourself. You start to understand the meaning behind your inner experiences and recognize that they are guiding you rather than confusing you. Change then becomes less about external pressure and more about internal alignment. You realize that the urge for change is not something imposed upon you, but something arising from within, calling you to evolve, to integrate, and to step into a fuller expression of who you are becoming. There comes a stage in inner development where what once defined you begins to feel distant, as though it no longer reflects the truth of who you are becoming. The roles you played, the beliefs you carried, and the image you upheld start to lose their certainty, creating a sense of instability that can be both unsettling and necessary. This is the moment when old identities begin to dissolve, not as a loss of self, but as a transformation of it. Many resist this process because identity provides a sense of continuity and control. It tells you who you are, how to behave, and where you belong. To let go of it can feel like stepping into emptiness, as if you are abandoning something essential. Yet what feels essential is often only familiar. It is constructed through past experiences, expectations, and adaptations that once served a purpose, but may no longer align with your deeper nature. When growth begins to take place, these structures can no longer hold the expanding awareness within you. They start to crack under the pressure of something more authentic trying to emerge. This is why the process feels disorienting. You are not simply adding something new, you are shedding what is no longer true. The dissolution of identity is not a failure of stability, but a necessary clearing, creating space for a more integrated and genuine sense of self to take form. Without this release, transformation would remain superficial, limited to adjustments rather than true change. As old identities loosen their grip, you may experience uncertainty about who you are, how you fit into the world, or what direction to take. This uncertainty is not a void to be feared, but a space of possibility. It allows you to step beyond rigid definitions and explore aspects of yourself that were previously hidden or suppressed. In this space, you are not confined by past labels or expectations. You are free to encounter yourself more directly without the filter of who you thought you had to be. This encounter can bring both clarity and challenge, as it reveals not only your strengths but also the parts of yourself you may have avoided. Yet it is through this honest engagement that a new identity begins to form. One that is not imposed from outside but emerges from within. It is more flexible, more aware, and more aligned with your evolving nature. The process cannot be rushed, as it unfolds in its own time, guided by your willingness to let go and to remain present in the transition. When you begin to trust this unfolding, you see that the loss of an old identity is not an end but a passage, leading you toward a deeper and more authentic expression of who you are becoming. True change does not begin with force, nor does it arise from external pressure alone. It begins in a quieter, more subtle place, within the depths of your own awareness, where a persistent feeling or insight continues to surface despite your attempts to ignore it. This inner call is not loud or demanding, yet it carries a weight that cannot easily be dismissed. It appears in moments of reflection, in feelings of dissatisfaction, or in the quiet recognition that something in your life no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Many people hear this call but choose to resist it, not because they do not understand it, but because responding to it requires stepping beyond what is familiar and predictable. Resistance often feels safer than change. It allows you to maintain control, to preserve the structures you have built, and to avoid the uncertainty that transformation brings. Yet this resistance creates a tension within you, a subtle conflict between what you know deep down and what you continue to hold on to. Over time, this tension does not disappear. It grows, becoming more difficult to ignore, shaping your thoughts, your emotions, and your sense of direction. The inner call does not fade simply because it is resisted. It persists because it reflects something essential within you that seeks expression and alignment. When you begin to stop resisting, something shifts. This does not mean that clarity suddenly appears or that the path ahead becomes easy. Rather, it means that you allow yourself to acknowledge what you have long sensed but avoided. You begin to listen without immediately dismissing or rationalizing it away. This act of listening is where true change takes root. It opens a space within you where honesty can emerge, where you can confront what needs to be addressed without the need to control or suppress it. As you remain present with this inner call, you start to understand this direction not as a fixed plan, but as a movement towards something more authentic. The fear and uncertainty may still be there, but they no longer dictate your response. Instead of turning away, you begin to engage with what is unfolding within you. This engagement allows change to move from a possibility into a process. It becomes something you participate in rather than something that happens to you. True change is not about becoming someone entirely different, but about allowing what is already within you to take form without obstruction. When resistance fades, even slightly, you create the conditions for this emergence. You realize that the inner call was never meant to disrupt you without reason, but to guide you toward a deeper alignment with your own nature, one that unfolds gradually as you learn to trust, to listen, and to move forward without denying what you already know within yourself.